Hey friends, welcome to our quiet corner of the night. In a moment we'll wander through slow dawns in Clover Valley, lazy brookside walks, sunlit climbs through swaying grain, moonlit rests by still pools, and the gentle rhythms that teach every breath to flow like quiet tide. If this calm mood feels right, tap like and hit subscribe so we can meet again, and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from and what time it is there. It's always nice to see our little circle stretch across the world. Now dim the lights, fluff your pillow, and maybe let a small fan hum away the day's noise. Take one slow breath in, let it out, feel your shoulders relax, and drift with me into these easy stories that help hearts feel brave and minds feel peaceful. The night sky still lingers, silver blue and soft when you notice the gentle giant sprawled across the heart of Clover Valley. Dew beads on every blade of grass, shimmering like cold sugar, and the air smells faintly of mint carried from distant hills. The giant lies on his back, one arm flung wide, the other resting across a chest as broad as a barn roof. Even in sleep, his ribs rise and fall with a tidal rhythm that draws the whole valley into slow, shared breathing. A sleepy hush drapes the landscape. Beetles click under leaves. Moths drift in lazy spirals. Each sound seems stitched to the giant's lungs. Inhale, the grass lifts. Exhale, the grass bows. You stand near his shoulder and copy the timing, lungs filling when his fill, emptying when his empty. Warm calm spreads under your ribs, and your pulse adopts the same easy cadence. First light leaks over the eastern ridge. Pale gold brushes the tips of distant wheat, then slides toward you, brightening each dewdrop until thousands of tiny mirrors appear. One ray settles across the giant's eyelids. A slow twitch answers it, then a gentle roll of one massive shoulder. He wakes the way mountains shift quietly, yet with weight you can feel in your bones. The giant bends one knee, then the other, careful not to crush a single wildflower beneath him. Soil creaks. Clover stems crackle softly but spring back upright as soon as the pressure lifts. When he finally sits, back straight and tall, the horizon seems suddenly closer, as though the valley itself has never stood beside anything so large and calm. Sunlight now pours freely, turning mist into rising silver threads. The giant lifts both arms overhead in a deliberate stretch. Every muscle unfurls under coarse linen. Shoulders ripple, spine lengthens, broad hands arc skyward until fingers almost touch the paling moon. You follow without thinking, arms up, palms open, feeling vertebrae stack neatly, chest expanding in a gentle blooming. On the slow return downward, warmth pools behind your navel and trickles into your thighs. A deep breath enters the giant's belly. The linen tightens across his ribs, then loosens. He places one hand on the center of that chest, sensing the heartbeat's slow percussion. You mirror him, palm to sternum. Your heart answers the subterranean drum deep inside his. For a moment the pulses sync, like two clocks that decide to strike together. The valley answers too. Willow branches sway in unison. A robin hops twice, then settles. High above, a hawk glides along thermal currents that rise from warming earth. Yet nothing breaks the softness of dawn. The giant stands. No tremor shakes the ground. Only a light sigh escapes the grass where his weight had lain. Sunlight now paints the full breadth of his shoulders, limning every curve in gold. Dew at his feet turns to glittering sparks before vanishing in sudden warmth. He tilts his head back, eyes half closed, and rolls his neck once, vertebrae giving a series of faint pops, no louder than bamboo chimes. He begins to walk west, toward a thicker carpet of clover at valley's edge. Each stride covers what would take you 5, yet he moves at a pace so unhurried you match him with ease. Grass parts under his feet, revealing black soil rich as coffee grounds. Ants scramble aside, then resume their ordered march the instant his soul lifts free. Reaching the densest patch, the giant kneels again. Hands the size of ox yokes sink into greenery and return cradling a cluster of pink blossoms and sugar-scented leaves. He pauses, eyes half-lidded, nudging the flowers to his nose before letting them drop gently back. The sight invites you to pluck one too. Nectar touches your tongue sweet, fleeting, like a secret born on morning wind. As you swallow, throat muscles glide smoothly, breath deepens without effort. A hush spreads, but it is not empty. Underneath lie layers of living sound, dew dripping, beetles scratching, breeze threading through tall grass. Your ears adjust, detecting each delicate layer, as though someone has turned up the valley's volume knob. In the newfound clarity, your own respiration becomes audible, a slow hush-rush that blends with cicada clicks and distant bird song. The giant lowers onto his side, propping himself on one thick elbow. He closes his eyes and begins to hum a single low note, steady as bedrock. The vibration rolls out through the ground. Clover leaves tremble. Your sternum resonates faintly. Without instruction, you join him, matching tone and volume. Sound travels through jaw and spine, loosening microtensions lodged overnight in neck and shoulders. Muscles surrounding each vertebra release one by one, like knots unknotting in warm water. Time slides. Could be minutes, could be hours. Dawn has no reason to measure. When the hum finally fades, silence feels newly polished, ready to cradle whatever comes next. Sunlight thickens into full gold. Warmth spreads across your forearms, drying dew into faint salt. You turn a palm upward, watching tiny pearls of moisture flash bright then vanish. Each disappearance leaves a brief, cool kiss behind before skin heats in gentle waves. The giant reaches into a small pouch at his belt and withdraws a clay flask. Compared to his hand, the vessel appears no larger than a thimble, yet it holds spring water so cold that beads of condensation gather instantly. He tips the flask, letting a thin stream arc through sunlight onto the grass. Droplets crown into sparkling orbs before bursting apart. Fine mist settles across your face, awakening every surface nerve. He drinks next and sip that drains half the flask, then pours the remainder over his head. Water cascades down the planes of his cheeks, off his square chin, scattering into diamonds. Some land on your shoulders, piercing the warmth with sudden cold that raises goosebumps. The contrast snaps you fully awake, yet calm persists beneath the alertness. Rising once more, the giant turns north, where the valley narrows into a grassy funnel leading toward unseen water. You follow, noting each phase of walking: heel landing, arch rolling, toe pushing, calves stretching. Breath finds a rhythm with steps. Heart responds with even, unhurried beats. A distant hiss becomes clearer the brook, still hidden by inclining ground. The breeze changes flavor. Moss, wet stone, something bright like sliced lemon. Saliva gathers at the base of your tongue. You swallow, feeling throat muscles dance, then settle. The brook appears without fanfare, a shallow ribbon yawning through the meadow. Sunlight laces its surface, gold net over green glass. The giant crouches, dips one thumb, disturbing mirrored clouds into widening spirals. You kneel too, plunging fingers into water sharp as melted snow. Skin contracts, then numbs, bones sing with cold. The giant shapes both hands into a broad bowl, scooping until the water threatens to overflow. Raising the catch overhead, he lets the stream cascadenic, shoulders, spine each drop exploding on heated skin before racing downward. You lean forward, splashing your own face, feeling cheekbones contract under sudden chill. Breath stutters once, then deepens, lungs grateful for crisp morning. Settling cross-legged on the grassy bank, the giant closes eyes again. You join him. Brook noise becomes a soft hiss swish, cleaning stray thoughts from the mind, like water polishing stones. One palm settles over your heart, feeling the pulse steady, strong, unforced. Chest rises, belly softens, shoulders melt. Sunday climbs a finger higher. Dragonflies hover, wings vibrating at frequencies invisible to sight. Each vibration enters ear canals as faint high notes, feather-light yet strangely thrilling. Adrenal glands release a whisper of energy, bright enough to lift the spirit without spiking pulse. Body chemistry performs its quiet ballet. The giant tilts his head skyward, eyelids still shut, as though letting light soak through skin and bone into marrow. You mimic the posture, noting how extraocular muscles stretch, how sunlight warms eyelids into soft rose. Optic nerves rest vision paused while other senses sharpen. You feel the exact moment a cloud drifts overhead, temperature nudges down a half degree, and shadow folds across the cheeks. Eyes open again. Blue stretches unbroken except for wisps of coral cloud at the horizon. You watch them drift, and the act of following their slow waltz lengthens your own inhale. Exhale matches cloud, pace easy, patient, endless. The giant rises, water dripping from linen in silent rivulets. He begins walking downstream, following the brook toward its eventual union with larger water among northern trees. You stand, shaking grass from pant legs, feeling micro-pings of sensation where dew had seeped through cloth. Ankles flex, knees track, hips swing in effortless alignment, as if path and posture had been planned since birth. Footfalls remain soft, not a single pebble complains. Birdsong thickens robins, finches, one distant thrush. Their melodies overlay the hiss of water, weaving an invisible net that seems to carry you forward. Each new scent, each shift in air pressure, each cool swirl at ankles when water skirts. The trailevery detail lands on senses wide open yet unburdened. The brook's hush threads through the valley as the sun lifts higher, replacing dawn's pale silver with a buttery glow that seeps into everything it touches. The gentle giant follows the water's winding course, and you follow him, moving from meadow softness onto a narrow, stony corridor where each footstep adds cool punctuation to the warm morning air. Pebbles press polite points into the arches of your feet, sending quiet signals up the kinetic chain. Ankles roll, calves flex, knees and hips share the load with unspoken grace. Nothing jars. Every joint cooperates in a wordless choreography that feels as natural as breath. Warmth trickles over your shoulders, drawn straight from the widening sky. Linen fabric soaks it up, holding just enough heat to coax shoulder blades apart and soften the fibers of your upper back. A small breeze sneaks through the corridor, slipping under sleeves and across forearms. Capillaries constrict for a heartbeat, then reopen, inviting blood to flow closer to the surface. Tiny bumps rise and settle in waves, leaving skin awake and humming. The brook transforms as it glides downhill. Where once it whispered, it now chatters, clear water leaping over rocks that glitter like sliced quartz beneath the surface. The giant steps ankle deep into a shallow bend, toes splaying for balance on smooth river stones. You match him, wading forward until icy ribbons wrap your shins. Vessels tighten against the cold, then release a flush of warmth from core to extremities. The contrast sparks a tingling bloom that dances up both legs and settles behind the knees. Your breathing sharpens, cool air filling deeper pockets of lung and fanning an ember of alertness without pushing the pulse beyond its easy cadence. Walking inside the stream turns each stride into an exercise in balance. Stones shift under arches, core muscles cinch gently around the lumbar spine. Shoulders remain level, counter, swinging in perfect time. Diaphragm draws down, ribs widen. Heart nudges its tempo just enough to match demand. Every inhale arrives crisp and pine-scented. Every exhale leaves the body looser than the one before it. As the creek widens, silt replaces rock beneath the surface, and sand swirls in delicate spirals around calves. When you step back onto the grassy bank, sunlight drapes across damp skin. Thin rivulets race downward, carrying heat away and leaving a cool glaze across your shins. Air currents sweep through grass, brushing those cooling patches and magnifying the sensation by degrees until blood flow gathers to warm them again. The dance between sun and breeze becomes a dialogue written entirely in temperature. Trees gather at the valley's edge, first scattered, then dense, casting wide blocks of shade that tessellate across the path. You enter that shade, and the temperature slips another notch. Lungs sip air heavy with pine resin and damp leaf, a balm that widens nasal passages and soothes throat tissue. Roots cross the soil like thick knuckles. Ankles perform quick pivots, hip sockets roll, and the small stabilizer muscles along the spine fire in subtle, confident pulses. No one muscle dominates. They share the burden the way practiced hands share a load. A brief clearing appears, floored with moss so green it seems to glow. The giant sinks into a deep squat, and you follow, heels grounded, hamstrings lengthening slow, knees opening like calm gates. Spine stacks from sacrum to crown, balanced without effort. Palms settle onto thighs, fingers uncurl. Eyelids droop halfway, filtering sun into velvet. In that stillness, interior rhythms step to the foreground. Heartbeat rocks the sternum in a steady metronome. Lungs swell and settle in quiet waves. Digestive tract offers soft gurgles of contentment. Even the faint buzz of blood in the ears feels musical, a private drum circle held in bone. Gravity invites a forward fold. Vertebrae unstack in measured succession. Fascia along the back melts like warm wax. Hands meet moss, sensing its cool resilience, cataloguing textures too small for eyes. Hamstrings sing low, satisfied notes stretch without strain while gravity does most of the work, drawing torso toward earth until the ribs press gently against thighs. Breath flows into the back body, expanding spaces that rarely feel air, massaging intercostal muscles with each rise and fall. Returning upright reverses the sequence. Lumbar engages first, then thoracic, cervical last, blood-chasing position to keep the view from spinning. Calves tighten in quick pulses, ankles steady. Vision sharpens as oxygen-rich flow bathes retinal tissue. The body stands taller than before, warmed from movement yet unhurried, as though every tissue has found its perfect length. The brook bends into denser shadow, and you emerge onto pale sand. Thousands of granules shift beneath each footfall, persuading toes to splay wide and metatarsals to share weight like seasoned teammates. Achilles tendons stretch a fraction deeper, arches adapt, returning kinetic energy while preserving softness in the joints above. Ahead, flickers of silver break through trunks too wide for brook water. A hush settles in the chest, the quiet anticipation held by breath before speech. The tree line parts, revealing a lake so still it seems carved from glass. Mirror smooth, it doubles the sky, lending the world 2 suns and twice the cloud lace. Air cools notably. Humidity rises and rests on skin like a damp silk scarf. Tiny hairs lift, pores tighten, then open again. With every inhale, the lungs drink moisture that coats bronchioles and makes each exhale feel almost warm by comparison. A broad, flat stone juts from the shoreline, sun-warmed on its crown, cool in its core. The giant eases onto it, legs extended, calves exposed to the lake breeze. You follow, sit bones anchoring in a perfect notch, sacrum settling into confident curve. Granite's heat seeps upward, coaxing lower back muscles to soften, while the underside of the stone loans coolness through thin layers of soil. Balancing sensation top to bottom, hands spread beside hips, reading the rock's rough gramoplex of quartz, shallow pits, warming ridgethan. File the information away as background comfort. Closing your eyes, you let vision rest. Inside that darkness, every other sense blooms. Wavelets lap stone in measured heartbeats. Gulls call in distant patterns. A wood, doves coo lands like soft punctuation. Breeze shifts. It smells of wet stone, faint algae, pine needles baking in sunlight somewhere behind you. Skin records 12 signals per second. The feather brush of an insect's wings near the temple. The subtle give of granite as weight redistributes. The micro, stretch of fabric across ribs with each breath. Muscle fibers unload tension in tiny, involuntary twitches. Fascia glides. Synovial fluid slides through joint spaces, distributing ease wherever bone meets bone. Time melts. Blood loops through arteries and veins in endless silent circuits. Lymph meanders along quieter roads. Beneath it all sits a pleasant weight at the body's energetic center, tethered to stone and soil, and the deep, unseen bedrock below. Systems hum at a frequency perfectly matched to the tempo of the lake, effort and ease sharing the same breath. Movement returns gradually, not from restlessness but readiness. Toes wiggle, ankles circle, knees bend, hands press the rock wrists stacked beneath shoulders, fingers splaying to share force. Spine uncoils upward, one vertebra at a time, head rising last into the lake-kissed air. Blood pressure tilts, inner ear fluid sways, stabilizes in the core fire just enough to keep horizon level. A subtle alertness, free of tension, takes residence behind the ribs. Feet sink into cool sand once more. Lake water laps near toes, and the invitation is unmistakable. You step forward, bend at the knees, and touch the mirrored surface. Liquid silk parts around fingers, cold climbing forearms to the elbow before retreating. Breath sharpens in the back of the throat, vagus nerve whispering to keep the heart steady despite the chill. Water lifted to lips tastes of stone and sky. It slides down the esophagus, lands in the stomach with refreshing weight that triggers a gentle wave of peristalsis, a reminder that nourishment is everywhere. The shoreline curves east, promising new textures, new currents of air, new lessons in sensation carved along the map of skin and bone. Knees bend, hips roll, shoulders swing. Behind you, the sun-warmed stone still lends heat to the morning. Ahead, leaves glitter like mirrors to the approaching noon. Every system circulatory, respiratory, muscular, neural runs in quiet harmony, tuned by brook and breeze and lake into a living metronome. The path narrows to a ribbon of soft earth padded with last year's needles, their scent rising in warm gusts each time a foot presses down. Sunday now hangs near its zenith, casting latticed shadows that slide over arms and cheeks like cool silk ribbons. Every patch of light that lands on skin feels briefly hot, then fades as a branch sways and shade claims the spot. Shoulders soak the warmth, then release it, creating gentle pulses of temperature that ripple across the back. The gentle giant moves ahead at an unhurried lope, each step silent on the needle carpet. You mirror his pace, noticing how knees bend just enough to cushion the body, while ankles roll through their full range. Calves work in slow accord with quadriceps, pumping venous blood uphill toward the heart. The rhythm steadies pulse at a pace that feels both alert and deeply calm. Resin perfumes the air thick, sweet, almost honey-like mixing with a faint mineral note drifting from the lake now hidden behind the trees. With each inhale, sinuses expand and chest walls glide outward. Exhale carries away the subtle peppery tang of warmed pine, leaving a delicate coolness at the tip of the nose. Breath and scent weave together until lungs feel coated in evergreen balm. A clearing opens without warning, oval and sun-drenched, its floor cushioned by moss the color of deep jade. Light bounces off bright patches of quartz embedded in a low granite outcrop, scattering white sparks that dance across eyelids. The giant eases down, knees folding soundlessly, torso reclining until broad shoulders meet the moss. You follow, lowering yourself onto the yielding surface. As spine meets earth, vertebrae nestle into natural alignment. The moss conforms, offering equal support along sacrum, lumbar curve, and ribcage. The ground's stored coolness meets the day's heat halfway, creating a perfect neutral cradle. Eyes close. Inside the dark, the body's interior orchestra grows louder. Heartbeat thrums steady lub-dub, lub-do beach cycle, sending a soft pressure wave through arteries that you can feel in fingertips resting on your solar plexus. Diaphragm dips, belly rises, and a gentle stretch spreads across the lower ribs. The next exhale flows out like slow water from a basin. Abdominal muscles draw in, gently massaging organs tucked beneath them. Somewhere above, wind threads through high boughs, producing a low, continuous hush that matches the frequency of resting respiration. Every so often a pine cone drops, landing with a muted thud that travels through the ground and into shoulder blades as a faint tremor. These subtle shocks encourage muscles to loosen further, melting layers of tension you hadn't known were holding on. Sunlight filtered through needles, dapple paints, closed lids in shifting patterns red, gold, amber nudging optic nerves without demanding focus. Behind the eyes, micro-movements cease. Ocular muscles float the eyeballs in a bath of quiet. Jaw slackens, tongue resting broad against the palate. Saliva pools lightly, neutral and unhurried. A swallow travels down the esophagus, smooth and complete, triggering a gentle wave of peristalsis through the stomach's upper curve. Deep inside, digestion resumes its midday work. Quiet, churning, faint gurgles, warmth, blooming around the navel as blood shuttles nutrients through mesenteric vessels. The body reallocates energy to repair and renewal, trusting the forest to stand guard. Heat builds on shins where trousers end, skin there prickles, then acclimates. Sweat rises in invisible beads, evaporating before it can pool, leaving a micro-cooling film that balances solar warmth. Under forearms, the story reverses. Shade keeps the air 2 degrees cooler, leading paws to pause their work. The contrast between sun-touched and shade-kissed flesh forms an ever-shifting map of sensation that keeps awareness lightly tethered to the present. Minutes blur. At some unnoticed point, muscles slip into micro-nap mode. Tone decreases, joints settle into mid-range, fascia slides to relieve residual pull. The weight of limbs becomes pleasantly heavy, as though each bone has found its perfect seat in the moss. Breathing grows so quiet it seems the forest hush might swallow it, yet oxygen continues its steady exchange alveoli unfolding like tiny sea anemones in a gentle tide. Somewhere far above, a hawk cries once, the sound thin and bright against the deeper rustle of pine. The call echoes in the hollow of the skull, then dissolves. A breeze freshens, carrying cooler air over damp foreheads. Tiny capillaries constrict. Heart rate nudges upward by a single beat. Equilibrium restored without waking the deeper rest state. Time loses markers. The sun slides a finger west. Shadows lengthen a hand's breadth. Subconsciously, the vestibular system senses this shift through minute changes in warmth on the skin and gravitational pull on inner ear crystals. Slowly, body systems begin their ascent from the naps valley. Cortisol inches upward to prepare movement. Respiration deepens. Eyelids twitch as optic nerves revive. Fingers flex first, testing humidity, feeling moss texture springy, moist, cool. Toes curl inside shoes, re-establishing proprioceptive maps. Knees draw up. Quadriceps contract in a lazy stretch. Lumbar spine arches gently. Vertebrae gliding over discs lubricated by the pause. A slow roll to one side activates obliques. Blood flow redistributes, preventing the head from spinning as posture shifts. Eyes open on a world painted richer. Greens saturated, shadows sharper. The sky between branches a deeper, clearer blue. The heart sets a slightly quicker tempo, readying muscles for the next segment of the day, yet no part feels rushed. Each joint reports in loose, cool, primed making, subtle adjustments as you push to a seated position. Standing engages soles first. Sand-fine soil yields, then firms, arches lift, ankles align. Calves awaken with a mild pull that lengthens into comfort. Shoulders roll up, back, down, freeing the sternum for unencumbered breath. A single deeper inhale fills the vat of the lungs, sending fresh oxygen to tissues newly cleared of metabolic haze. Light breeze returns, sliding over the nape and through hair, removing trapped heat. Tiny hairs at the base of the skull tingle. That gentle stimulus widens pupils momentarily before parasympathetic balance returns. Sweat evaporates, leaving salt crystals too small to feel but tangible in taste when lips brush skin near the wrist. Ahead, the forest floor slopes downward toward muted glimmershints of open grassland waiting beyond the pines. Gravity invites motion. Hamstrings contract, ankles bend, momentum gathers. Steps lengthen into an easy descent, where every footfall compresses layers of needles, releasing brief bursts of terpene perfume that trace the air like invisible calligraphy. Moss, shade, breath, and pine have stitched noon's nap into the fabric of muscle and memory, leaving the entire body looser, lighter, and quietly charged. With each stride, joints roll like greased bearings, lungs expand without resistance, and heart hums a balanced baseline. The gentle giant strides ahead, silhouette framed by sunlight spilling into the clearing below. Midday passes its torch to the long glow of afternoon, and the forest yields to open meadow once more. The body steps across that threshold attuned and ready, carrying the calm power of rest into the unfolding hours. The meadow opens wide, a rolling quilt of gold where tall grasses sway in slow, ocean-like sets. Sunday stands high but begins its long tilt, pouring thicker warmth that pools on forearms and the tops of ears. Each step through the grass brushes ankles with feathery taps that send faint sparks up the shins. Seed heads burst at the slightest touch, releasing tiny parachutes that ride the air beside your pulse. The gentle giant eases into a stride that arcs toward a low, rounded hill. You follow, knees lifting higher now as stems grow taller. Quadriceps engage, hamstrings lengthen, and hip flexors roll like smooth gears. With every lift and plant, the diaphragm mimics the motion rising as knees rise, falling as feet settle so breath and gait share one unfussed rhythm. Air smells of sweet hay baked by hours of light, spiced with the clean pepper of distant sage. Inhale fills deep pockets beneath the collarbones. Exhale leaves a hint of grassy sweetness on the tongue. Sweat beads along the hairline, cooling as wind combs through, and salt crystallizes in near-invisible lace where temples meet cheekbones. At the hill's foot, earth firms under shoes-rich loam traded for packed clay dappled with flat stones warmed to perfect skin temperature. Soles register each stone's shape, and tiny foot muscles adjust, spreading toes to read the ground like braille. Calves tighten, pushing weight upward. Glutes fire in staggered pulses. Spine lengthens one vertebra at a time as incline summons fresh engagement. Breath widens to meet the gentle climb, rib array expanding like slow bellows. Halfway up, the wind changes. A cooler drift spirals from the summit, carrying faint scents of fern and shaded rock. Skin along forearms detects the shift first. Hairs rise in soft salute, and paws tighten before relaxing, sending a renewed wave of blood beneath the surface. The cooling breeze sends heart rate down a notch, even as legs continue their steady push. At the crest, a plateau of cropped grass welcomes tired quads with level ground. Shoulders roll back, chest opens to sky. Lungs draw a single, fuller draft that seems to rinse every air sac clear. The giant lowers into a kneel, palms pressed flat to earth. You mirror the gesture, fingers spreading over sun-warmed soil. Heat radiates into metacarpals, traveling wrist to elbow in gentle pulses. Under palms lives a faint tremor, earthworms shifting, roots drinking. The low sub-bass of the planet's heartbeat perceived less as sound and more as vibration against eager nerve endings. Gravity asks for a deeper rest, and the body yields. Hips settle cross-legged, sit bones root, spine arranges itself in an effortless stack. With eyes closing, brightness of afternoon filters red across the inner lids, settling into even glow. In that gentle, dark, sensory maps redraw. Wind roars a soft hush around outer ears, mingled with distant insect drones, and the occasional hollow cluck of a hunting hawk. Heartbeat steadies to a measured drum, breath glides in cool through nostrils, out warmer past parted lips. Beneath the sternum, stomach offers a slow churn, digesting the earlier sip of lake water and clover nectar. The sound is faint, almost oceanic, joining the meadow's insect choir. Muscles that labored on the climb release one by one. Calves loosen, quads lengthen, hip flexors drape like silk ribbon over bone. Fascia along the lower back glides, freeing sacrum to ease into its natural curve. The nervous system slides toward parasympathetic balance. A wash of calm spreads from cervical spine to fingertips, like twilight arriving early inside the body. Lids lift again. Sky has shifted to a richer blue dotted with thin, high clouds that drift like brush strokes. Sun's angle casts prairie-long shadows that cool patches of grass in irregular stripes. You rise slowly, vertebra by vertebra, letting blood flow reacquaint itself with verticality. A brief lightness spins behind the forehead. Ankles flex to steady stance. Inner ear crystals settle, and horizon steadies. Stride resumes along the hill's ridge, where grass shortens into soft turf. Each footfall compresses the cushion, springs back, and returns energy upward through ankles, knees, hips, not a jolt, but an encouraging recoil. Shoulders swing with just enough amplitude to massage thoracic spine. Scapulae slide in polished tracks atop rib cages. Breath finds a pendulum rhythm timed to the count of strides. 4 beats in, 4 beats out, light and even. Sunday lowers by perceptible degrees, brushing nape and calves with kinder warmth. Sweat, once a thin film, turns to cooler residue. Breeze collects it, carrying heat away and leaving skin in balanced equilibrium. Capillaries beneath the cheeks tint them with a quiet flush, testimony to circulation's smooth flow. Ahead, ridge ends in a gentle slope carpeted by wild thyme, its scent released when the giant's first steps crush violet flowers. Aroma blooms around ankles and rises to meet the lungs like herbal steam. The slope invites an effortless trot. Gravity partners with momentum so quads only guide, not drive. Each downhill stride lengthens hamstrings, loosens knees, and fills hip sockets with rolling ease. Arms widen slightly for balance, fingertips trailing invisible calligraphy through fragrant air. At slope's end waits a lone oak, broad-armed and ancient. Its shade pools cool and dense, promising short respite. You glide beneath its canopy, air temperature dropping as though someone dimmed a sun lamp. Sweat chills pleasantly, chest feathers with goose, skin that vanishes once temperature stabilizes. Back meets bark in gentle lean, rough surface kneads interscapular muscles, loosening threads of work that even rest atop the hill did not fully unweave. Heartbeat drops, deepening the lull that always follows steady exertion. Diaphragm broadens. Each inhale pushes rib ends outward against bark texture, providing self-massage. Eyes trace the oak's branches, heavy limbs twisting skyward, leaves flickering green, silver in afternoon light. Pupil size adjusts to dappled jazz of light and shadow, ocular muscles exercising without strain. The giant shifts onward and you peel from the trunk. Feet find rhythm again on level ground, stride shorter now, tailored to conserve energy for the hours that remain before dusk. Shoulders stay loose, head balanced atop the atlas vertebra with minimal muscular grip. Breath moves like a metronome ticking mid-tempo. Heart echoes, neither hurried nor slow. A hush settles across the meadow, insects lowering their pitch, breeze winding down, as though the land itself inhales before evening's sigh. Muscles interpret the cue and bank surplus energy. Glycogen stores remain untouched. Fat metabolism hums quietly, providing steady fuel. Electrolytes lost to sweat ride bloodstream toward awaiting cells, each pore and nerve conductor in a fluid symphony of maintenance. Sunday approaches horizon, casting amber over the grasses and igniting every seed plume into tiny torches. Shadows stretch and merge, cooling ankles first, then calves, then knees. Thermoreceptors map the change and instruct autonomic systems to narrow surface vessels, conserving warmth for oncoming night. A faint shiver tiptoes down spine, more signal than need reminding shoulders to roll once, drawing fabric closer. The meadow narrows into a funnel of fading light, leading toward distant pines where evening will stage its quiet theatre. Legs understand without thought, adjusting cadence so the last stretch remains unforced. Breath continues its 4-count waltz, heart dutiful partner, and the body carries forward the afternoon's sum. Heat absorbed, breeze enjoyed, scents catalogued, muscles worked then soothed. Amber light pours long and low across the meadow, tipping every blade with fire, while the sun drifts toward the rim of distant hills. Each stride through the tall grass now parts a river of shadow that closes the moment a foot lifts. The ground still holds afternoon warmth, but the air has cooled. Temperature gradients layer like invisible silk scarves, warm on calves, cooler on thighs, almost chill around the nape of the neck where sweat has dried to fine salt. The gentle giant angles toward a rocky spine that rises from the valley floor. You follow, heel to toe, along a faint trail pressed into soil by deer. With every upward step, ankles flex and Achilles tendons lengthen. Calves fire in slow pulses, pumping residual heat up through the venous highway. Breath deepens instinctively, expanding ribs side to side, back to front an accordion filling with dusk-scented air tinged by marigold and drying sage. Halfway to the ridge the terrain shifts. Packed clay gives way to rough granite shelves, their surfaces sun-warmed on top, cool beneath. Soles land, read micro-textures, and transmit maps to proprioceptors in knees and hips. Tiny stabilizer muscles course-correct without fanfare. Balance becomes an almost subconscious dance. Sweat beads at the hairline, then cools in the down valley breeze, sending a brief shiver across scalp and sternum before vessels constrict to preserve core warmth. At the summit, the world opens wide. Valley grasses ripple below in slow-motion waves, reflecting copper where sunlight still strikes and violet where early shadow pools. The giant settles cross-legged on bare rock. You do the same. Sit bones finding a level seat on stone that has stored the day's heat like a banked ember. Spine rides effortlessly upright. Shoulder blades melt down the back. Hands rest on thighs, palms up, wrists neutral, fingers relaxed. In this steady posture, the diaphragm moves unimpeded, dipping deep on each inhale, letting belly rise before ribs broaden. Exhale floats upward from the pelvic floor, knitting abdominal wall towards spine, and drawing stale air outward in a smooth ribbon. Wind makes a slow circuit around the crest, brushing cheekbones with cool, herb-rich drafts. Tiny muscles at the base of each hair root respond, raising the faintest goose skin that settles just as quickly. On the next inhale, sinuses bloom with scent. Cracked lichen, sun-baked granite, the faint tang of far-off pine resin that evening air ferries upslope. Oxygen slips through alveoli into blood. Hemoglobin releases its cargo of carbon dioxide with each steady out-breath, exchanging fatigue for clarity. The sun lowers to eye, level. Soft crimson washes across eyelids. Pupils contract, then relax as gaze drifts from direct glare to the saturated oranges and magentas that stain the western sky. Retina cells shift duty from cone to rod, sensitivity recalibrating for dimmer light. Visual acuity softens, peripheral vision widens. The day's final warmth grazes forearms once more before lifting, leaving skin tingling with the mild electricity of thermal change. Below, shadows stretch long fingers toward the ridge until they meet your perch. As darkness climbs calves and knees, you feel capillaries narrow, directing blood inward. Heartbeat slows 2 counts, parasympathetic tone rises. A single deep sigh escapes unforced, complete, a gentle release from mild exertion. Intercostal muscles relax, diaphragm finds a slower cadence, nervous system tilts toward rest. The giant's presence is steady, his massive frame silhouetted against the blaze of sunset. He remains still, yet his slow breathing is visible in the subtle rise of linen over ribs. The cadence acts as metronome for your own lungs. Both chests rise in shared, temposcent proof of bodies attuned to the same fading light. As the solar rim dips below hills, color drains from rock, grass, and sky until everything rests in slate blues and soft purples. Photoreceptors in eyes trigger melatonin's gentle trickle, preparing inner clocks for coming night. Temperature drops 2 more degrees. Pores close. Skin cools with a faint prickle that quickly steadies as blood shunts from surface to core. Joints, warmed by climb, now feel limber, floating in synovial ease without weight. Crickets begin their bowstring chorus below. Each high trill lands on the eardrum as a fine vibration, translating to electrical whispers along auditory nerves, blending with the deeper drone of katydids and the distant, hollow hoot of an early owl. Layer upon layer of sound settles around ribs like a knitted blanket you can hear as well as feel. Breathing sinks to the rhythm and inhale across 4 cricket chirps, an exhale over 4 more body rewriting its tempo sheet by sheet. The first stars bleach through twilight. Neck extends effortlessly, cervical vertebrae stacking as gaze tilts skyward. Sternocleidomastoids soften, trapezius fibers loosen, eyes adjust once again, locking onto bright points just born in the dome overhead. With every slow blink, the ocular muscles rest a fraction longer, and the tiny tear film across corneas cools in evening air. Saliva production lowers. Mouth tastes faintly metallic, a sign of circadian gears shifting. The ridge rock cools beneath sit bones. Fascia along hamstrings thickens slightly as temperature drops, prompting a subtle shift of weight. Gluteal muscles engage, lifting pelvis, legs unfolding from cross-legged into a squat. Knees straighten with an easy pull in quadriceps. Calves lengthen, ankles rotate, toes spread across stone for grip. A momentary lightness flares behind the forehead as blood redistributes. Vestibular system steadies the horizon. Breath deepens to anchor balance. Descent begins on the ridge's shadowed side. Footfalls land heel to mid, sole to toe, each contact cushioned by soft loam already kissed by night air. Muscle memory guides placement. Eyes do less work, trusting proprioception. With each downward step, hip flexors lengthen, quadriceps modulate tension, and hamstrings absorb gravity's aid. Knees act as hinges oiled by day-long movement, bending and extending without catch or pop. Shoulders drift free. Arms swing just enough to counterbalance. Halfway down slope, the meadow hush thickens. Air feels denser, cooler, scented with damp earth as evaporation slows. Sweat glands wind down. Micro salt crust along temples grows dry, tight, then forgotten. The nose picks up a faint sweetness the first night, blooming primroses opening to moths. Stomach responds with a low, curious gurgle. Not hunger exactly, more a polite notice that digestion is ready whenever needed. Liver and pancreas idle in metabolic rhythm calibrated to rest. Ground levels into familiar grass-soft plain. Each blade that brushes shins is now coated in dew. Droplets burst cool against skin. Thermal receptors register the touch, sending a quick alert that fades into pleasant chill. Lungs fill with wetter air. Exhale leaves lips and immediately beads as mist, visible in starlight. Heartbeat settles to evening cruise, strong yet slow, like a bass drum played with felt mallet. Ahead, the valley brook reappears, a dark ribbon reflecting planet Venus. Shoreline stones, warm from the day, radiate stored heat. The giant stops near water's edge, lowering massive frame until forearms rest on knees. You kneel beside a flat stone, palms pressed to its heat. Fingers absorb warmth that slides along bones to the wrist, meeting cool that rises from nearby water-dual currents that cancel into perfect balance. Kneeling brings thighs against calves, stretching insteps, loosening the small plantar muscles of feet. The ankle's anterior ligaments relax. Dorsal veins fill, cushioning joints. Breath remains unhurried. Vagus nerve hums with steady tonic, coaxing heart to a restful baseline while keeping blood pressure smooth. Water laps in rhythmic hushes gentle strokes against shore. Ear canals adjust, tuning out cricket choir to foreground this subtler beat. Each lap equals 2 heartbeats. Body slips into binary time. Pulse and wave, pulse and wave. On the next inhale, back muscles soften, chest opens, and lungs drink in water-cooled molecules that smell faintly of trout, lily, and silt. Eyes acclimate fully to night. Constellations glow crisp. The Milky Way smudges overhead in luminous gauze. Neck tilts back once more, vertebrae gliding without friction. In the dark, the sense of boundaries fades. Skin feels the space around it as much as the fabric on it. Blood slows, pressure gentles, liver and kidneys ramp up nighttime filtration. Muscles slip into low-tone maintenance mode, fibrils knitting micro-tears earned by the day's climb and walk. A final, deeper breath fills lower lobes with cool, dew-scented night. Exhale threads through parted lips in a warm plume that merges with brook mist. The body is neither active nor sleepy, just balanced, suspended between work and rest, primed for whatever quiet path the evening chooses. Shoulders rise in one lazy arc, relax. Jaw loosens, eyes narrow to half, lids soft, focusing on lake, cooled starlight. The gentle giant's silhouette eases upright, enormous yet weightless in the hush. You match the motion, knees unbending, feet finding solid ground. Fabric rustles, a small hush inside larger hushes. Heartbeat, wave wash, cricket drone, distant owl. 4 steady layers of sound guide your steps as you and the giant drift down valley toward deeper shadow. Night deepens as the brook guides 2 shadows toward a hollow where water widens into a slow, mirror-flat pool. A thin crescent moon hangs just above the tree line, casting silver seams along every ripple. Cool vapor rises from the surface, brushing shins first, then drifting higher to wrap the waist in damp silk. Skin tingles where day-warm fabric meets night air. Capillaries retreat, blood drawing inward to guard the core. The gentle giant settles on a smooth shelf of sandstone, its face still warm from hoarded sunlight. You fold beside him, seat bones finding steady purchase, calves curling toward the water's edge. Rock warmth seeps upward, loosening lumbar muscles and coaxing the spine into natural curves. Shoulders unfurl, the back of the neck lengthens, chin tips down a breath's width, aligning crown with tailbone. In that posture, lungs glide without resistance, each inhale sliding cool down the throat, each exhale trailing a soft plume that dissolves into silver fog. Across the pool, the first firefly sparks, a brief green-gold pulse suspended over dark water. Another answers. Then a dozen more, stitching errant constellations between sedge stalks. Eyes track the slow-motion lanterns, pupils dilating to drink their glow. Tiny ocular muscles perform micro-corrections. Photoreceptors switch fully to low-light mode, sharpening contrast without straining to name shapes. Vision loosens. Awareness spreads to ears, skin, viscera. Somewhere behind, wind laces through reeds, carving low whistles that slide over the eardrum like cool fingers. Crickets maintain their metronome steady, high, precise, while deeper in the forest a barred owl rolls a single note that hums against the sternum. Heartbeat chooses a middle ground between cricket trill and owl call, finding a tempo that feels both anchored and unhurried. Rock heat fades gradually, replaced by the pool's cool breath. Sweat glands pause, pores close. A faint crispness settles along forearms. Hands rest palm up on thighs. Fingertips register micro shivers of night breeze, translating them into quiet electric language that travels wrist to elbow to shoulder. Blood oxygen saturates at a lazy, even level. Hemoglobin releases its load with every long exhale, trading fatigue for calm. Belly rises in darkness, soft and slow, nudging abdominal organs in a gentle massage that aids the last arcs of digestion. Peristaltic waves curl through intestines like small, silent tides, moving nutrients along toward midnight's maintenance shift. Liver enzymes ramp, kidneys filter, cellular housekeeping hums below conscious notice, powered by the rhythmic piston of diaphragm and lungs above. Above the pool, 1,000 stars harden into clarity. The Milky Way drapes its pale cloth overhead, and gaze climbs along its seam until neck vertebrae angle just shy of full extension. Sternocleidomastoid muscles stretch. A trickle of fluid shifts in inner ear canals. Balance algorithms adjust. Breath deepens to offset the minor postural demand. When head tilts forward again, eyes gather starlight as after. Image, scattering it across the mind like phosphorescent dust. A faint scent of wood smoke drifts in someone's distant hearth, announcing the coming chill. With the smell arrives an almost imperceptible drop in temperature. Skin responds with goose, skin that runs shoulder to wrist before flattening. Muscles along spine tighten a hair, holding heat, then release once equilibrium returns. Heart rate dips, another beat. Blood pressure softens, parasympathetic tone reigns. Knees straighten, legs extend over the rock lip until heels skim water, so cold it needles arches and tightens calves. Reflex pulls feet back, but the chill sharpens every nerve ending, flushing fresh warmth along tibia and fibula as vessels rebound. Sensation contrasts across the body, lingering sandstone warmth at sacrum, neutral air across torso, residual cold, sparkling over toes 3 temperatures, knitting one complex awareness. Breath rides a slower cycle now, perhaps 6 rounds a minute each inhale, filling lower lobes first, lifting gently under ribs. Each exhale spilling out through slightly parted lips, lengthened until lungs feel hollow and light. Between breaths, a moment of suspended quiet appears, more felt than heard, where heart and crickets align in perfect, hovering unison. Fireflies fade as night matures, replacing their lamp play with deeper dark. Moon climbs a hand's breadth, silver sharpening the lake's black glass. Soundscape thins, crickets lower volume, owl drifts farther, leaves hush. Even brook noise softens where the pool slackens, its hiss subdued to a soft gurgle beneath an arch of moss-coated roots. The body answers by yielding weight to gravity, one final increment shoulders, settling, elbows heavy, jaw slackening away from upper palate. Saliva thickens as circadian chemistry signals rest. Eyelids drift to half-mast, lashes grazing skin. With each slow blink the world blurs, then settles into softer outlines. Star, reed, ripple, moon. Muscles store this blurry calm as a blueprint for coming sleep. When eyes close fully, stone warmth at the spine, cool breath filling chest, and water hush at the horizon merge into a single felt blanket of sensation. Blood slows to nighttime drift. Brainwaves dip toward the first theta lulls. Melatonin washes neural pathways in quiet velvet. No motion remains but that of lungs, heart, and the gentle giant's shadow breathing beside you. 2 sets of ribs rising and falling like paired shoals under a smooth nocturnal tide. Moon climbs past its zenith, thinning to a shard of cold pearl overhead. Around the pool the reeds stand motionless, weighted by dew that glints whenever a star flickers. Air cools another quiet degree, enough to coax a soft curl of breath fog from your nostrils on each exhale, a silvery ribbon that unravels before reaching the water's glassy skin. The gentle giant lowers onto his back amid a cushion of leaf litter and moss. You mirror the motion, spine settling against loamy ground, still holding a hint of afternoon warmth. Vertebrae sink into natural alignment. Lumbar curve eases. Sacrum presses gently, signaling hip flexors to unclench and drape. Legs lengthen until heels find cool soil, toes angled toward the thin lunar crescent. Arms rest a palm width from your sides, palms up, fingers relaxing into a quiet curl. Gravity does the rest, drawing shoulder blades flat, elongating the back of the neck, smoothing forehead skin that has carried the day's sun. Night air slides beneath the collar, cooling the ridge of clavicles. Capillaries there contract, funneling blood inwards. Heartbeat steadies to a hush, barely more than a whisper felt in the hollow of the throat. Each inhalation gathers dark scents: wet stone, distant cedar, faint sweetness of cold-opened primrose. Diaphragm dips in an unhurried arc. Lungs inflate from the base upward, gently pressing abdominal organs like slow tides of velvet water. Exhalation melts through parted lips. Vocal cords barely brush, releasing a sound too soft to qualify as a sigh. Eyes open wide to the starfield, no longer points on ink, but radiant pinholes in a great dome. Retina is ruled now by rods. Vision carries the subtlest gradients. Charcoal sky sliding to indigo, lake edge smearing from onyx to muted pewter. Above, the Milky Way spills grain on grain of pale dust, its faint glow washing photoreceptors with soft silver, coaxing pupils to their fullest bloom. Ocular muscles rest in near stasis. Every blink is slow, viscous, a gentle rinse of tear film cooling corneas. Inside the skull, cerebral cortex, idles beta rhythms giving way to slower alpha swells. With each measured breath, alpha crests slide down toward theta, loosening threaded thoughts into gentle associative drifts. Under that tide, the brain's glymphatic channels begin their nightly cleansing, cerebrospinal fluid pulsing around neurons in miniature waves that match the beat of the heart you feel beneath sternum and fingertips. Far across the valley a fox yips once, bright and quick, The sound arcs over reeds and falls quiet. Hairline mechanoreceptors catch the faint tremor, pass it to auditory nerves, yet the startle curve never rises. Parasympathetic influence cushions the jolt before adrenaline can spark. Shoulders remain loose, pulse holds steady, breath resumes its easy glide. Dew thickens, laying a cool gloss on exposed forearms. Sweat glands close, skin pH shifts microscopically toward neutral. Keratin cells drink the moisture like parched paper. Beneath epidermis, lymphatic vessels carry immune cells on slow patrol, their pace unhurried in the calm chemistry of night. Tiny fascial fibers, warmed earlier by movement, contract imperceptibly as temperature falls, gently hugging muscle bellies into restorative stillness. Thought fades further. Body awareness narrows to 4 anchors. Slight earth, warmth at shoulder blades, subtle chill on shins, rhythmic lung sway, distant drum of the giant's heart, a low subterranean thump you sense through soil rather than hear. Those anchors form a square raft on which consciousness drifts, bobbing between wake and precursor dream. A long inhale glides in. At its peak, lungs pause, suspended, then soften into the void of exhale. Between out-breath finish and next in-breath beginning lies a gap, a silent notch where everything holds. Time there feels stretched, viscous. Heart beats once, maybe twice, in the hush before air returns. Gap after gap widens until breath cycles slow to 5 per minute, then 4, matching the slow oscillation of vagal tone cresting and ebbing. Stars wheel fractionally, Orion's belt edges west. Pine silhouettes now frame only the moon's faint halo. Digits cool, blood flow prioritizing core. Fingers lie inert, pleasantly numb, nerves calmed by oxytocin and melatonin mingling in quiet circuits. In the abdomen, vagus signals slow muscular waves that ferry nutriment into deeper intestine, freeing energy for immune repair and memory consolidation. The mind, half aware, notes dim impressions, submerged rocks that feel like memories, not stories. At last eyelids fall, sealing vision. Dark behind them deepens to velvet. External sound dulls, replaced by interior sea, rumble of arterial pulse in eardrums. Muscles enter atonia's threshold. Minor twitches ripple through calves and deltoids as motor neurons discharge excess ions, then silence returns. Hypnic imagery flickers across cortical theatre quick. Luminous shapes untethered to waking narrative then dissolves. A final conscious scan glides from crown to heel. Scalp tingles under damp hair. Jaw hangs loose, tongue broad, throat open, chest buoyant, belly soft, pelvis heavy, thighs slack, knees easy, ankles cool, feet adrift at temperature's edge. No part asks attention. Every system drifts in compliant harmonized body, a darkened village where lamps dim, doors latch, and nightly caretakers begin their quiet rounds. Pre-dawn hush holds the hollow as a single wide breath. Stars pale by slow degrees. Only the brightest cling to the sky's deep navy, while the crescent moon slides behind pine crests, shedding its last sliver of borrowed light. Body and earth lie fused in stillness heart, thumping at 4 quiet beats to each lungful, muscles floating in the syrupy atonia of deepest sleep. Inside the skull, rapid eye movement flickers behind shut lids. Ocular muscles dart, scripting soundless stories that evaporate before conscious mind can name them. Neurons fire in kaleidoscopic bursts, replaying daytime patterns while glial channels flush metabolic hush from synapses. Lymphatic rivers pulse, rinsing brain tissue with clear cerebrospinal tides precisely timed to each slow wave of the cardiac rhythm. Far down the spinal column, sacral nerves hold the pelvic floor in gentle equilibrium. Abdominal viscera hum in parasympathetic calm. Liver enzymes filtering, kidneys cycling blood through nephron loops, gut lining, absorbing trace minerals left by earlier sips of spring water. Smooth muscles march unhurried peristalsis, a silent conveyor belt beneath ribs' rising arch. Temperature reaches its nightly nadir. Core warmth holds steady, yet fingertips cool. Fine arterioles constrict to guard vital heat. Dew settles on forearms where pores lie closed, depositing microscopic beads that chill epidermis without stirring deeper tissue. Under each hair follicle, erector muscles rest no shiver yet, just a potential coiled like a quiet spring. Very gradually, the eastern rim of sky thins from navy to carbon grey. Photons multiply, too faint for rods to notice, yet retinal circuits relay hints to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. In adrenal cortex, cortisol secretion ticks upward half a notch, ordering cellular engines to idle. Heart picks up a fifth beat between breaths. Blood pressure climbs within safe twilight bounds. Nostrils flare, tasting change before mind wakes. Trace sweetness of germinating grass, metallic whisper of distant stream tumbling new stones, faint wood, smoke ghost from a shepherd's fire miles off. Olfactory bulbs pass the signal through limbic halls, tugging the first fine thread of alertness toward frontal cortex. Eyelids twitch, then still. A longer inhale enters, sluicing cool into lower lobes and nudging diaphragm farther than sleep's shallow crest. Intercostals answer with a subtle lift. Rib joints wheel open. Sternum floats half a finger higher. Exhale departs slower, feathers of warm vapor brushing the upper lip, then fading into unmoving air. Light strengthens. Graphite sky turns gunmetal, then soft slate. Birdsong punctures the hush-owned sparrow's tentative cheep, rising from reed thatches. Tympanic membranes vibrate. Auditory nuclei translate pitch and interval. Yet consciousness remains underwater, hearing the note as distant coloured ripples rather than form and meaning. Limbic clock chimes again. Cortisol steps another rung. Sympathetic tone lifts only enough to lighten cardiac stroke. Heart now taps 5 beats to the respiratory swing. Blood pushes into stiffened fingers, warming knuckles first, then palms. Capillaries bloom back to life. Skin over metacarpals flushes faint rose beneath the dew glaze. Subtle proprioceptive stir travels the musculoskeletal web. Quadriceps twitch, calves tighten a shade, toes uncurl. Atlanto-occipital joint releases a long-held sliver of tension. Neck lengthens by a breath, thickness, clearing airway to full diameter. Tongue wets palate, tasting slight salt from evaporated sweat, signaling salivary glands to resume their drip. Eyes blink open to a charcoal horizon bordered faint lavender. Pupils contract against low light. Rods hand partial duty back to cones. Visual cortex opens its shutters. Depth returns. Tree line resolves into serrated silhouette. A swallow travels throat to stomach, waking enteric nerves. Stomach rumbles softly, not with hunger but with readiness. The gentle giant's massive frame shifts, linen rustling as one arm bends and rests across broad chest. Earth transmits this movement as a mild ripple under shoulder blades and sacrum soil acoustics, carrying weight like bass through wooden floors. Body reads the tremor not as alarm but as shared momentum, cueing its own emergence. A deeper breath arrives, flooding alveoli. Stretch receptors fire. Medulla registers full inflation and triggers slow exhale. With it, diaphragm pushes upward, massaging heart's pericardial cradle and coaxing pulse to climb toward daytime cadence. Serotonin levels follow cortisol's lead. Neurons spark sharper. Knees draw up, soles sliding against loam, hips rotating outward. Hip flexors engage, quads contract, abdominal wall tones, just enough to lift the torso a handspan. Vertebrae articulate, discs rehydrate from night's compression. Fascia glides along warmed paths. Shoulders roll back, clavicles widen, pectoral fibers stretch, inviting oxygen, rich blood into their weave. Seated now, spine stacks like smoothed stones. Hands rub dew from thighs, generating friction heat that migrates up forearms in amenable waves. Wrists roll, digits lace, palms press overhead, lengthening latissimus and serratus, coaxing ribcage into sunrise. Wide expansion. Synovial fluid thins, coating glenohumeral joints as arms sweep forward, then down with a hush. First true colour floods the world, bruised mauve tipping to peach. Dew dazzles on reed spears. Pool glass becomes liquid opal. Retina drinks the palate. Optic nerve passes it to visual memory centers, filing tones under dawn and renewal. Behind sternum, sinoatrial node sets a new tempo, 62, 65, 68 beats per minute. Peripheral vessels dilate, ushering warmth outward. Goose, skin, smooths. Breath finds a gentle, waking rhythm. 4 counts in, 6 counts out, lulling sympathetic rise, anchoring calm. Quads press, body rises to a squat, then stands. Arch, ball, toe greet packed soil, mapping microtextures, alerting ankle stabilizers, tibialis anterior and gastrocnemius, alternate gentle stretch, coaxing Achilles to pliancy. Calves pump venous reserve uphill to help heart complete its circuit. Light now gilds treetop tips in molten amber. A second sparrow joins the first. 2 notes curl upward like fledgling flames. Locust leaves whisper as valley breeze returns, sliding cool under warmed collarbones, balancing the inside-outside gradient. Sweat glands open a hair, evaporative system primed for the coming day. The pool stirs. Mirrored skin riffles when a rise of air glides across. Beneath, trout shift positions. Lateral lines feel pressure change. Their fins flick once, stirring silver arcs. Eyes track the subtle wake. Parasympathetic still rules, but hands flex, ready for action should the moment require. Spine bends in a forward fold, hamstrings greeting gravity. Blood flows headward, baroreceptors in carotids register shift, prompting mild vasoconstriction to keep vision steady. Lower back lengthens, fascia warming. Exhale slips free, carrying stale carbon from lung bases. Inhale returns, pushing diaphragm against viscera, massaging them awake. Standing again, stance widens, arms spread, chest opens to the sun now breaking horizon. Photoreceptors flood, suprachiasmatic nucleus resets circadian counters, melatonin falls away. Cortisol plateaus at morning norm, enough to sharpen but not jangle. Mind surfaces fully, clear yet tranquil. Memory of night's drift, lodged like a smooth stone in pocket of the day. Behind, the gentle giant's footsteps brush grass as he rises. Ground echoes with heavy, measured thuds, felt through femurs like distant drums. Without words, bodies align. Breath, posture, pace. Valley air warms degree by degree. Breeze tastes of upcoming sunlight, dry stone. Open blossom, faint promise of heat. Feet pivot toward the east-running deer path, soft earth springing under soles. Knees bend, hips roll, arms pendulum, lungs settle to a mid-tempo waltz. Heart matches. Every joint feels oiled, every tendon tuned. Brain humming at alpha edge alert, relaxed, forward-leaning into new hours. Sunday climbs 2 arm lengths above the hills, turning the valley's early chill into gentle warmth that seeps through linen and tickles the skin beneath. Grass tips still hold clear beads of dew, yet each bead flashes white, then winks away as light thickens. The path underfoot feels alive, springy, with hidden root webs, and shot through with tiny tunnels bored by night beetles. Soles register every contour, toes spread wide for balance. Arches roll so smoothly that ankle joints seem to flow rather than hinge. Breath finds an easy pattern. 3 slow counts in, 5 counts out. Inflow pulls the scent of waking flowers, marigold, chamomile, a shy thread of honeysuckle, and threads it along nasal passages cooled by morning air. Outflow leaves a warmer ribbon, heavy with the faint mineral note of blood, just beginning its work in muscles again. Heart keeps quiet pace beneath the sternum, neither racing nor dawdling, sending pulse waves that touch eardrums as gentle drumming far inside the head. A low rise appears, tufted with purple aster. Climb begins almost without thought. Calf muscles bunch, then lengthen. Quadriceps accept weight, contract, release. Hip sockets glide. Knees angle, keeping ligaments aligned. Patellae slip in greased tracks. Diaphragm responds dip, fill, rise ferrying more oxygen to fibers, now using stored glycogen for gentle power. At the crest, wind arrives, cool and quick, sweeping sweat from hairline before it fully forms. Skin tingles, pores narrow, capillaries blossom a soft pink just beneath the cheeks. Descent follows. Gravity lends momentum. Eccentric contractions in hamstrings catch each step, protecting joints while letting thighs stretch. Spine stays supple, a well-strung bow absorbing little jolts. Shoulders hang easy pendulums that keep balance true. With every stride, the valley floor rises to meet the foot, then drops away again, rocking the inner ear in a rhythm that feels half lullaby, half drumbeat to welcome the fresh day. In an open glade, sunlit and buzzing, insects ride thermals like sparks. Wings beat so fast they colour the air with faint hum shyer than thought, yet bodies pick up the tremor through chest bones. Sweeping an arm to clear a path sends cool air across damp underarm skin. Sweat evaporates, leaving salt crystals that prickle then settle back into nothing. Glands underneath reset, ready if heat grows harsher. The brook from night's pool meanders back into view, narrower now, chattering over flat stones. Stepping into it, water climbs ankles with a bite of cold that pulls a soft gasp through lips. Blood vessels in feet tighten, then rebound, charging calves with fresh warmth. Pebbles massage soles. Nerves spark awake, sending clear signals up tibia to knee, telling posture to shift a hair for safer footing. Out again onto sun-warm bank. Skin steams gently, tingling as temperature evens. Meal-light hunger stirs no sharp pang, only a hollow brightness under the ribs. Stooping, fingers find wild strawberries in tufted green. Pinch, lift, place on tongue. Tart juice bursts, mixing with breath until saliva thickens in happy agreement. Swallowing triggers a wave that rolls down esophagus. Stomach walls stretch. Release a faint purr that fades under birdsong. Blood sugar ticks upward small, steady flame. Walking resumes along a lane of young birch. Bark gleams pale against shadow. Breeze runs through leaves, making soft applause that patters against the outer ear like warm rain. Arms rise overhead in a slow stretch, lengthening latissimus down to hip crest, drawing shoulder blades apart. Air floods deeper, ribs widen front and back. Heart shifts slightly in its cradle, enjoying roomy space. Exhale folds torso forward hinge at hips, not waist-easing sacrum, while hamstrings greet a new length. Head dangles, vertebrae spacing out like beads on a slack string. Returning upright, discs plump, nerves glide free, and a single roll of neck erases leftover tightness. Sunday climbs higher, light sharpens colour, greens brighten, shadows crisp. Sweat loosens collar, threads down spine in narrow streams, cooling once wind catches them. Sodium leaves through pores, replaced by water pulled from bloodstream. Thirst blossoms as dry tickle at soft palate. Flask rises, cool gulp pours down, widening the esophagus, pooling in stomach with a weight that feels like smooth stone, settling into riverbed. Kidneys note influx, prime quiet pathways to filter later. Path meets a field of knee-high rye. Stems brush thighs, delivering tiny static charges where fabric drags. Every few steps, grasshoppers snap upward, rasping wings against air-quick staccatos that draw eyes, then vanish in green blur. Hamstrings lift legs higher to clear stalks. Core engages, keeping hips level. Lumbar stays long, protected. Breath shifts no 2 counts shorter, matching extra effort, yet still unrushed. Field ends at a stand of elder. Shade cools skin instantly. Pause sigh closed. Pulse eases below throat. In that dim pocket lantern flies wink faint daytime glow that flickers in leaf. Shadow. Knees bend, lowering body to squat. Achilles lengthens, soles flatten, pelvis rests between heels. Forearms drape over thighs, hands hang loose. In stillness, heartbeat echoes in eardrums, breath slows again. Ground releases damp loam centerthy, calming rising with each inhalation. Minutes pass, measured only by the sway of branches overhead. When thighs warm with returning blood and ankles signal mild protest, weight shifts forward, feet plant, hips drive up. Spine stacks, shoulders settle. Step by step the walk resumes, lighter for the pause. Behind, elder shade fades. Ahead, valley mouth widens toward distant hills where noon waits. Sunday stands straight overhead, an unmoving white coin in a glassy blue bowl. Light falls hard yet clean, washing every colour to its brightest note. Greens burn almost silver, browns glow warm copper, even shadows shine a deep indigo. Heat presses gently on the crown, slides down spine like a warm hand, and settles across shoulders in a cloak of weightless velvet. Pores open and shimmer, sweat beads form, rise, and burst into vapour the next breath of air carries away. The gentle giant leads toward broad fields where summer grain nods at knee height. Each stalk holds a feather seed head that hisses when wind slips through, making a low surf sound around ankles. Step forward. Shins part the golden tide. Calves feel countless soft taps. Tiny husks crackle against fabric. Soles land on dry soil baked firm, a thin crust over cooler layers beneath. With each landing, arches flex, metatarsals splay, and toes grip, sending micro-vibrations up tibia and fibula to kneecaps that float steady in their grooves. Breath shortens by half a count to answer heat. 2 beats in, 4 beats out yet, remains smooth, never rushed. Each inhale draws toasted scents, sun-dried straw, faint resin from distant cedars, a ghost of warm stone. Air brushes palate and throat, drying them just enough to cue another sip from the clay flask. Cool water reaches tongue, curls down gullet, and lands in stomach with a quiet thunk. Vagus nerve sings approval, salivary glands restart, and blood carries the chill outward like a slow ripple. Up ahead, the field rises into terrace steps cut by generations of wind. Climb begins, thighs lift, hamstrings lengthen, glutes fire. Heart answers with a gentle crescendo lub-dub still measured, but proud to move stronger blood. Sweat trickles at the nape, slides between shoulder blades, and finds the spine, where it cools in wind and draws away heat with perfect timing. Skin tingles, then settles, reaffirming the body's quiet pact with temperature. At the top of the first terrace lies a natural stone bench, just a shelf of granite wide enough for 2. Sitting, sit bones root to warm rock, quads relax, calves dangle, loose and thankful. Eyes roam across a sea of rippling gold, each gust bending stalks in shifting chevrons that march toward and away, hypnotic in their patient cadence. Inner ear welcomes stillness. Breath deepens. Pulse descends a notch that feels like the body lowering anchor into calm water. Cooling palms rest on thighs, noticing heat stored in fabric. Fingers drum once, testing energy levels. Tendons feel supple, forearms light, wrists free. Spine rises tall from tailbone to crown, vertebrae stacking with tooth. Click precision. On next inhale, arms reach upward, stretching latissimus and serratus, lengthening rib spaces, letting sternum drift skyward as if suspended by silk thread. Exhale releases arms to sides, leaving torso open, chest cavity spacious, lungs glad for room. Stand again, muscles answer refreshed. Terrace 2 leans steeper, soil crumbly underfoot. Ankles angle, stabilizers in peroneal group flick on and off, protecting joints. Knees bend with springy give, absorbing slopes pull. Arms widen slightly for balance, scapulae glide. Collarbones spread like oars cutting still water. Sweat grows saltier, lips taste the brine. Another swallow of water moves minerals inward, keeping electrolytes in easy harmony. Near terrace crest, grain abruptly ends at a patch of wild mint. Crushing leaves under boot releases sharp green perfume that rushes up nostrils, clearing any heat fog from mind. Breath instantly feels cooler, eyes sharpen. Small muscles behind lids adjust focus, taking in distant shimmer where brook reappears a ribbon of light. Heart lifts not pounding, just brighter, as if a window opened inside the chest. Flat ground returns. Sunday heat pounds less on scalp, blocked now and then by small passing clouds-white islands, casting brief shade that moves like slow birds. Each shadow wash drops surface temperature by a precious degree. Skin responds with goose, bump wave that fades once light rolls back. Downwind insects drone lazy chords. Their pitch merges with bloodstream's hush until sound and pulse weave a single steady hum. Ahead waits a lone willow ringing a shallow pond fed by hidden spring. Waterline glitters silver. Willow leaves susurrate softly. Reaching it means stepping off dusty soil onto moist silt. Arches cushion, then flatten, toes squish, coolness wicks upward. Kneeling, palms scoop pond water and splash forearms and face. Shock of cold sparks, skin awake, constricts peripheral vessels, and floods deeper tissue with fresh warmth moments later. Breath hitches, laughs silently, then evens. Shade beneath willow invites full rest. Back meets trunk. Bark presses acupressure along spine. Hips sink into damp grass. Heart rate sets baseline steady, satisfied. Eyes half close, peering through leaf curtains where sun coins flicker and dance. Vision softens. Auditory cortex takes lead. Tracking pond burble, leaf whisper, distant grain hiss. Trio playing slow afternoon jazz. Inside, digestion wakes again, coaxed by earlier strawberries now breaking sugars into ready fuel. Stomach needs, small intestine absorbs, liver filters, all inaudible yet sensed as a warm stirring below ribs. Meanwhile, ligaments slacken, fascia slides, micro tears earned during climbs align and knit. Cellular masons patch muscle fiber, fueled by oxygen flowing in lungs' slow tidal rhythm. Minutes pass unmeasured. When eyelids lift, sun has begun its long descent. Edges softening, gold mellowing toward amber. Body feels lighter, as if gravity trimmed its pull. Standing brings no protest. Knees hinge smooth, hips open, calves rebound strong. Sweat film gone, skin cooled, pores half closed. Return path threads along pond edge where frogs plink into water at each footfall. Heart registers their splash as quick blips but stays steady. Shoulders roll once, greeting renewed freedom. Chest inflates, offering thanks. Exhale glides sigh, like, content. Steps lengthen into easy stride down valley. Wheat field whispering goodbye and receding susurrus. As dusk folds over Clover Valley, you and the gentle giant pause on a low ridge, watching the gold of the fields melt into violet and the first evening breeze carry the day's last warmth across your arms. Every muscle now feels clean and loose. Every breath slides in and out like slow tide, and the steady drum of your heart echoes the valley's quiet pulse proof that sunrise's chill, noon's heat, and every soft mile between have tuned body and mind to the same calm key, leaving you grounded, open-eyed, and ready to meet tomorrow's light with the same gentle strength.